You're listening to CreepGeeks Podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/CheapGeek. So it begins again. Welcome back to the CreepGeeks Podcast. This is episode number 144.
Momo, Small Town Monsters, Seth Breedlove interview, and U.S. Navy admits UFO'S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Load it.
Yeah. What?
So here we are again. Welcome to the CreepGeeks Podcast, episode number 144. This is a pretty good podcast to listen to if you're listening to us right now. If you are listening to us since your very first time, thank you very much, and we do welcome you. If you listen to us on the regular, thank you very, very much, and welcome back, because it begins again. So, this podcast is about what?
CreepGeeks Podcast is an offbeat news podcast that takes a lighthearted approach to the paranormal, cryptid, strange, the silly, and trending tech topics circulating the web, broadcasting paranormal news and fun stories from our underground bunker in the mountains of western North Carolina.
Yes, that is correct. I am Greg.
I'm Omi.
And we're going to go ahead and get started with the podcast. So here's the deal. Before we actually move right into the podcast, because we have a very good show for you, as we always do, but this one's probably a little bit better than most. Actually, I'll go on record and say it will be, at least to us anyway, right? A couple different ways you can support the podcast. You can support the podcast by passively listening, which is appreciated. You can also support the podcast by passively actively listening, which is basically you listen passively and then you do a review, because reviews help podcasts grow. You can actively support the podcast by jumping in and talking to us on our Facebook page, which is called what?
CreepGeeks CreepGeeks Podcast.
CreepGeeks Podcast Facebook page of destruction, right? So you can find us there.
Our Facebook group is CreepGeeks Facebook group.
Yes.
Yes.
You can go to our website, creepgeeks.com, and you can use the contact form to click and submit a story or something if you'd like to share. You can also call into our podcast because we have a toll-free number that you can call.
And that phone number is 575-208-4025.
Yes. Where you can share your stories, right? Because we do appreciate that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You can also support the podcast if you want to help, like, financially, because this is the NPR Beg for Money week, evidently, for public news radio or news. What is it? NPR?
National Public Radio.
You're listening to National Public Radio.
Don't say that.
With all things, yeah.
It's not true.
Well, it's true. But you can support like they do, because they kind of get on there and say, if we can get $1,000 in. But ours is easier.
Okay.
Next time, go to Amazon. If you click our link and buy something, we get a small percentage because we are influencers on Amazon.
Yes, and that link is amazon.com/shop/CheapGeek, and the link is in the podcast notes, so when you download this episode, you can actually click on it from there.
Yes, won't cost you anything at all. It doesn't change your price when you buy something from Amazon, and it's an affiliate link, and caution, we may get a percentage.
Yes.
That's our little disclaimer. It's very much appreciated because when you do that sort of thing, it helps us support the podcast, helps us put coffee in the Albino Rhino, and gas gets flowing, and we get to go places.
That's not how it...
Our Albino Rhino is our DIY adventure camper mobile investigation machine.
/
I don't have any
photography mobile.
Photography mobile.
Yes.
Where we go take pictures of stuff. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So anyway, we're going to move into the podcast because we have some pretty cool stuff to talk about. Before we get right into it, though, we always do what we always do, which is do this. Interesting random factoids.
Okay.
These interesting random factoids are brought to you by us from our recent experience at Cryptidcon. Right?
Yeah.
Here's the first interesting random factoid. We went to Cryptidcon in Kentucky as fans. It only occurred to us to ask for interviews on day 2.
Oh, yeah.
You don't need to explain. These are interesting random factoids. These are facts.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like the next fact. We bought a box of chicken that could feed 20 people.
We should expound on that fact, though.
Nope. It's a fact. It stands on its own.
No.
So.
If you want a very large chicken meal, Cracker Barrel.
Yeah. The place where we stayed was pretty close to Cracker Barrel, as in it was like right across the street kind of a thing. And we were like, man, we're very tired. Let's eat a lot of chicken. So we looked at the thing on the internet and did the, order over the internet. Because we weren't exactly sure how much a big box of chicken from Cracker Barrel would be, since we're not Cracker Barrel aficionados. Let's just put it this way. We still have the box, man. It's huge. It's a big, giant box. We're like, man, that's a lot of food. Yeah, so we ate it all and went to sleep.
Yes.
So anyway, we bought a box of chicken that could feed 20 people. We didn't sleep at all before our trip.
Nope.
We laid down to sleep the night before and said, okay, it's only 5 hours, right? It's a 5-hour trip, no problem. We didn't sleep. So we're like, oh, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Let's just go. And we did. And that was a mistake.
Yes. Even Pepper didn't sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're like, man. So it was a long trip. So we got there, having not slept at all the night before, or the day before for that matter. Walked around talking to people. I know we didn't make any sense at all. We probably seemed like crazy people.
Yes.
But the good news is, having done this sort of thing before and gone to cons, because we're cool now, we can call them cons, a lot of the vendors and people you were speaking to or going to speak to haven't slept either, because it's a production to get everything ready and go out there and unpack and load up and get ready.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, we did not sleep before our trip. And we met, here's the next interesting random factoid. We met, talked to, and didn't interview everyone at Cryptidcon, though we should have.
That's true.
Yeah, we could have basically interviewed everybody there and talked to everybody there and put them on the internets for our little podcast, but we didn't. That was our mistake. Won't happen again.
Yeah.
So here's another interesting random factoid. It kind of moves into and ties into the podcast topic of what we're going to talk about today. You ready?
Yeah.
Director, filmmaker Seth Breedlove appreciates canines.
Yes, he does.
So he likes dogs. Interesting random factoid. Everyone liked Pepper. Our dog. She had big fans, man. It was funny. We talked to, you talked to Jeff Meldrum for like 20 minutes about dogs. We talked to everybody about dogs. Nick Groff basically talked to Pepper. Didn't talk to us, but talked to Pepper. That was kind of cool. It was kind of funny.
We weren't worthy, but Pepper was.
The dog was cool. And we're like, hey, can I pet your dog? And it's like, well, yeah, go ahead. You already are.
She had her little podcast shirt on, so she was cool. We weren't, so...
Yes, and another interesting random factoid. We bought a DVD for the upcoming movie Momo, The Misery Monster, and we don't have a DVD player. It's 2019, man. I didn't even think about it. My computer doesn't have a drive. Our TV doesn't have a DVD player built into it. We don't have a Blu-ray player. I was like, huh. Because remember, we come from a land of streaming internets.
Yeah.
Which we do not have here in our underground bunker. So we're like, well, how are we going to play this DVD?
3 computers later.
Well, yeah, it became a thing. So, I used my external basically CD, DVD, Blu-ray drive. Didn't have any software to be able to play it. It was just weird. But we made it work.
Yeah.
We had to pull out laptops from the past and put them in there. First one played for about 7 minutes before it just blue screened. At which point I realized, oh yeah, that's why I bought another laptop.
Yeah.
So it became a little bit of a
But
thing.
even still, it is 2019. Plus, we had that original plan where we'd be part-time on the road.
Yes.
It wouldn't be...
prudent to carry a DVDs, Blu-ray player around with
you could store socks in that extra space or snacks,
Yeah. So, and what we actually wound up using was another laptop that we had, and it worked fine. But it just became a thing. It was like, well, at least we had the external hard drive / DVD drive, not hard drive, but external DVD disc Blu-ray drive that we can use, so it'll work.
But it's a signed DVD.
That is true.
Yeah.
So Seth signed it for us. It's very, very nice. It's a thing. So we got some swag while there because we went as fans, but it didn't occur to us to ask for interviews until day 2. So anyway, there's our interesting random factoid. And I think before we move into our interview, because we have an interview with Mr. Seth Breedlove, right? Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about Small Town Monsters, which is the film production company that does these great movies, Momo, which is upcoming. Or actually, by the time you're listening to this, Momo is already out. It's probably on Amazon where you can check it out. There's a bunch of different places. I think we're going to go ahead and play a quick sort of commercial for our friend Bobby. Yeah, I think he would like that. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go.
Hi, this is Bobby B. from the Asheville Past Lives Project. I'd like to invite you to my upcoming events. On Thursday, September 26th, I'll be giving a workshop at Crystal Visions in Hendersonville, North Carolina. 7 to 9 p.m., only $15 cash at the door, for an opportunity to experience a guided past life journey with the group. Then on October 3rd, I'll have another of our first Thursday meetups, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m., once again at the Haywood Road West Asheville Library in lovely West Asheville. And in November, I'll be back at the Shop Eclectic in Marion for another Saturday evening talk. Check out my website, Past Lives Project, for more info. And as with all of these events, let me know that you heard it on the CreepGeeks Podcast, and you can go home with some highly coveted CreepGeeks swag. Check out the website, pastlivesproject.org, for more information, and thanks to Greg and Omi for keeping it creepily geeky.
That was very nice.
Come on.
Yeah.
He's got that down.
I know he likes
Creepily
it.
geek.
He's like, I'm going to make that work for you guys, man. Like, all right. So, yeah. So, since Bobby is talking about places that he's going to go, let me tell you where we're going to be. This weekend, we're going to be at the Outer Realm Festival. Do you know where that is?
Harriman, Tennessee.
Yep, it's in Harriman, Tennessee. And what makes the Outer Realm Festival kind of nice is that it's a little bit of everything. It's UFOs, paranormals, it's ghosts. What else is it? It's woo-woo
metaphysical.
stuff, like metaphysical stuff and
Woo-woo.
woo-woo type
Cryptids,
stuff.
paranormal, UFOs, metaphysical, and different spiritual stuff.
Yeah, so
Yes.
it should be a good time. So the Outer Realm Festival is going to be September 21st, and it's in Harriman, Tennessee. If you're anywhere out and about in that particular area and you want to come by and see us, you should, because we'll be there. And you can even meet Pepper,
Yeah.
our paranormal pupper, who's just basically not happy right now.
Yes.
She's still angry about the whole got to get your shots updated, her vaccinations. She's not too happy about
I
it.
guess she's an anti-vaxxer and we
Well,
are.
that and you posted a meme that's like shots with Pepper. Little picture. She doesn't appreciate it. So.
Well, you know.
Yeah, and actually the basically Realm Fest is going to be like we said, it's in Harriman, Tennessee. It's at the Riverfront Park, which is the David Webb Riverfront Park. It's on 301 Emory Drive in Harriman, Tennessee, 37748.
Yeah.
So yeah, you should.
And we'll put a link in
You
the
should
show
come.
notes so you can find out more information, like, getting tickets and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's hosted by the East Valley Paranormal Society. So
Yeah.
they seem like really nice people.
They are.
So that'll be good. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So we alluded to the fact that we had an interview with Seth Breedlove from Small Time Monsters.
Yeah.
Right. But I feel like before we actually get into that, I need to address something.
Okay.
The news has been all aflutter, right? With basically the UFO videos that happened. Remember those?
Yeah.
Like the Tic Tac video, the FLIR video, the Fast Mover video. And then there was the whole thing about, the Navy being involved, and people were like, oh, yeah, see, there you go. Well, recently, the new flap is that the videos, the UFO videos, are footage of real unidentified objects. So the U.S. Navy has now acknowledged the fact that these are unidentified objects, or unidentified aerial phenomenon is what they would like you to call them. And everybody's freaking out.
I know.
We're like, well, yeah, so what?
It's
So there. I mean, if you can't identify it, whether it's a balloon floating or a ship or an aircraft or something like that, it's unidentified. It is a little bit of an aerial phenomenon because we don't exactly know what they are. We can't say, that they're man-made or extraterrestrial or anything like that. So why is everybody making this out to be like the U.S. Navy is admitting that there's extraterrestrial UFOs when that's not at all what they're doing?
It's two things, and I watched a lot of this blow up over the past couple of days on Twitter, because Twitter is now where all the UFO experts are. So,
oh, yes,
yeah.
on Twitters.
But what was mentioned was that a lot of this work was done by another organization that kind of fits into the paranormal and UFO communities.
Yeah, they actually release, what do you call it? Documents.
Yeah, like
they
kind
release, what do they call their black something?
Yeah, they're the
Black
ones who
vault.
basically, leak or bring this matter to attention to the UFO community.
Yeah.
Mainstream media is now hopping on the bandwagon. We've noticed this since last year. They are hopping on the bandwagon of these alternative things. They are pushing their weight around and making the decisions as to what should be popular and what should be talked about.
Well, as the news typically tries to
They
do
are
these
steering
days.
the conversation. So whereas the traditional UFO community, which we follow a lot of people, or we enjoy reading books from, watching their videos, things like Dolan, people like that, we pay attention to. Now these larger organizations are making the determination that they're going to be the ones that...
And guess what? They're already too late.
Yeah. I mean,
these videos were put out, a while ago.
Yeah.
And released by Tom DeLonge from the To the Stars Academy.
Yeah.
Right. And the videos were FLIR 1, Gimbal, and Go Fast. I called them like Tic Tac and Fast Mover or whatever.
Yeah.
But...
And to be honest, it's like mainstream media literally looked at like the Joe Rogan interviews or some of these content creators and researchers looked at their social media metrics and said, oh, we got to get on that. So especially, and I hate to say it, places like
I think
CNN,
it's because they kind of missed the boat the first time around.
CNN, MSNBC, even Fox News, some of these places, they're taking the ball and trying to run with it.
Yeah.
The conversation should be, we as the UFO community need to not fall into the media trap.
Well, it's too late.
I know.
You can go to theblackvault.com and you can kind of check out what they've got going on, and they're the ones who've done a pretty good job of unreleased documents and that sort of thing, to kind of give credit where credit is due. And, it seems like we've seen where some of these major news organizations have appropriated other people's articles.
Yes.
And detailed research.
Like, yeah, we were...
As their own.
I was telling you earlier, it was like CNN did not acknowledge the Black Vault at all, which is why the link that's in our show notes for this podcast, it does acknowledge the Black Vault did this research.
theblackvault.com.
Yeah. And I like that they're accredited here. They did the work. They did the legwork. And it's taking away from the spirit of research and journalism, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay, so the Navy, the United States Navy has admitted that they don't know what those things were. They didn't say they were little green men. They certainly didn't say they were spacecraft from another dimension or galaxy or whatever. They said, yes, they're unidentified aerial phenomena.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all they admitted, which is okay, because there's a lot of countries who've admitted that, hey, they've seen stuff, they don't know what it is. You know what I mean? So it's not like it's a big deal, and it's certainly like so this can be considered, I guess, a significant thing, but it's not groundbreaking like they want you to think it is.
It's great that, they're acknowledging and using certain terminology. In the past, and I'm talking the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, it was either no comment or I cannot speculate.
Well, and
or
that's
I
part of
cannot
it
say
too.
what it is.
That's part of what they're trying to say is that they didn't want to acknowledge this at all. They didn't want those videos to get out, but they did.
Yeah, at least saying.
Well, which brings me to this point.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that. If your government, and I mean our government, doesn't want to release footage and video stuff of something that has such a obviously higher technology than what we do you think that's going to make the people who trust the government, and I use that with air quotes that you can't see, sleep any better at night, knowing that there's something out there, possibly one of our not so friendly neighbors, that has technology that's way more advanced than you?
No.
For a long time, the United States has been the most technologically advanced country on the planet. And I'll fight anybody in the backyard who says otherwise. Because it's true.
Yeah.
And so if we're supposed to be the top technological dog, and here's this thing just whizzing around at 300 miles an hour doing impossible maneuvers, at least impossible to us, and also impossible if you put it in the realm of, is this physically piloted by an individual, wouldn't you be freaked out? I'd be kind of freaked out.
Yes, but culturally, actually not even culturally, worldwide, we are not the only other country that has significantly lost faith in its government over recent decades. So I think the media is feeding into that insecurity. We already don't trust some of the things that come out of our government sometimes. Yeah. And now the media is like, oh, let's run with this. We'll get 20,000 hits in like 2 minutes.
Well, that's what they do.
I know.
Because the media has, over the past, the recent past, has had to become attention whores.
Yeah, and they're feeding into people's insecurities because
that's all they ever do. It's the same thing as when you have elections where they're like, if you don't vote for us, they're going to take away the fire department, police department, and all the infrastructure pieces.
Traditional media has been losing the stronghold on captivating and keeping people's attention.
I know.
Yeah.
We know that. But the point is that why are they trying to
Because this is super scary.
Is it super scary? Maybe, maybe not. Is it just basically they're late to the ball game and I think they felt like they missed the boat on what was put out last time? That's more than likely.
Scare gets more clicks.
Yeah, from stupid people. It's true. I mean, the people that pay attention have a tendency to already kind of know.
Yeah.
But see, that's just it, though. When you don't pay attention and you don't know, then you read an article, you're like, oh my gosh, the U.S. Navy says there are extraterrestrials.
Or an obviously faked photo gets 2,390 shares in 2 hours.
It kind of is what it is. I mean, honestly, what if this is some kind of ruse by the United States? Ruse.
Really?
A ruse by the United States government to get more money for the budget, the defense budget.
That'd be interesting.
By going, hey, there's some videos of super highly advanced technology that is way better than what we got. We're going to need more money for the defense of this country.
Or what we tell you we got.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? I mean, who really knows what this is? It could be an argument said that, hey, since we have programs, black box programs, skunkworks types programs, all sorts of crazy, sort of off the books kind of programs, maybe it's our technology. I don't know. See, because I kind of think that if the United States military thought that the technology that they were seeing belonged to another country, they would be reacting more strongly to it. Now, as far as what reaction they may be taking, if they are taking, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I think it would be a thing for sure. Even more of a thing than it is currently. So.
I like that we're saying we have no idea and not speculating or assuming because, again, everybody know what assuming does or to assume does.
Yeah. It makes an ass out of you.
It makes a but.
Too late.
Oh.
So anyway, as far as the big announcement that the United States Navy believes in extraterrestrials, no, that's not what they said. That's why they keep saying we would like you to call them unidentified aerial phenomenon because they're trying to make sure that there is a distinction made.
And it's that's the other thing.
Between extraterrestrial UFO, little green, blue, gray men, and what they actually see is something that they can't identify. Like, it's been around for a long time, identified flying stuff, like Foo Fighters and everything else. So.
But right there, you pointed out something else, and it's something that I have been fighting for a little while now, and that's, the articles are coming out, the U.S. Navy believes in, but then you read, and it's no, the U.S. Navy acknowledges.
And that there are unidentified aerial phenomena.
Yeah, not just UFOs, but we're talking Bigfoot, spirituality, weird paranormal concepts. There's a difference between acknowledgement and belief.
Yeah.
And I cannot stress that enough. The belief is not there. The acknowledgement is.
Yeah. And they're not acknowledging what people were saying that they believe in.
Yeah.
So it kind of is what it is. So we thought we'd address that because I was like, really? Come on, man. So to me, it was kind of a, well, duh.
Yeah.
But anyway, so moving along from that, I think that, I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. I'm sure this goes way down a rabbit hole that is much, much, much deeper than the surface that we've scuffed on. But honestly, I don't particularly care. You know what I mean? It's like, to me, it makes sense. Okay, there is unidentified aerial phenomenon out there. Countries have seen things. There's been lots of flaps and things going on. Other governments have also seen. I don't really care that the United States Navy has acknowledged that there are unidentified flying phenomenon or unidentified aerial phenomenon. Because to me, that makes sense. Because we have seen weird things in the sky that we can't identify. Does it mean that you automatically make the leap to aliens or extraterrestrials? No. I mean, I firmly think that a lot of the things that are being seen, not necessarily in these 3 videos, but a lot of unidentified aerial phenomenon that's out there are government or military or other countries' government/military. You know what I mean? Testing things that you just aren't aware of.
Or maybe just some form of unmanned technology, possibly.
Yeah, like drones.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Because I mean, who knows? And we don't have the time to sit here and try to speculate against what everything is and what it can be, and
Or fight the Twitterverse.
yeah, fight the Twitter fight. I just don't have it in me because we're going to be at the Outer Realm Festival this weekend. We got stuff to do.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, I think we're supposed to do a little talk on Southwestern stuff.
Yes.
New Mexico Weird is what we're going to call it.
Okay.
Where we talk about cool things like Thunderbirds, Skinwalkers.
Thunderbirds are UAPs.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, Skinwalkers, Sasquatch.
Sasquatch.
Yeah. You want weird stuff? We got it. These are some things that we experienced, so it should be a good time. So when we went to Cryptidcon, we had a chance to talk to a lot of people, but one of the people that we went to and definitely wanted to make sure that
We were
spoke
excited to see.
Yeah. Not excited like, you know, like, oh my God, there's the Beatles, but like excited, like, oh, that's cool. Let's go over and talk to this fella. Right?
Yeah.
We went and talked to Seth Breedlove, and we wanted to see all the small town monster crew. You know, because it wasn't just Seth Breedlove, it was some other people as well.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Our timing was kind of off. It seemed like, but anyway, we wound up talking to Seth. I felt kind of bad. Let me put it to you this way: we walked up the first time. Seth was doing a talk or wasn't there. I can't remember what the deal was exactly. And we talked to
Ellie, or what is
Yeah.
her name? Yeah.
Haskell,
Yeah.
and that was great. And then later on, we came back, and you know, there was a couple other people hanging around. Weren't exactly who they were because it was a little crowded. It was a little crazy. We were a little tired, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we came back a little later, and there was Seth, and we talked to him for a minute, and you know, did that sort of thing. Then we kind of came back, went and talked to the guys from Grimstake and Jerry Cthulhu, and you know, some other podcasters.
Noxmente.
Of Noxmente, yes. And the Obelisk is a new show. And then we also talked to, well, everybody we talked to last time in our previous podcast, we talked to.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the podcasters that came back around again. And there was a couple occasions where we were cruising by, and Seth is the only guy sitting there, just looking kind of just sitting there by himself, you know. And he there was a bunch, it was kind of, it's not funny, but we've been to cons where we've seen people that it's just them.
Yeah.
Like they don't have other people around them, and there's like this, you know, picture of them, like behind them. You know what I mean? I almost felt kind of bad because it just reminded me of like when you see from some obscure science fiction show, like from the 50s or something like that, the guy that had a little part on that show. I'm not trying to name any names, you know, who was an integral character of the show, but it's just him. It's like from 1950s, you know, sci-fi show, this guy. Who's like some 65-year-old dude now.
Yeah. But
He's
not the
just sitting there.
same.
But it was what it reminded me of, you know. He's just sitting there, just looking around like, you know. Hey. But I mean, that wasn't his case, but it just seemed like the coincidence was that every time we went by, it really wasn't.
Yeah. But
it was just him.
He was
holding
exhausted, though. He had to do the opening night, which we missed, even though we were planning on going. But
yeah.
Yeah.
Because they did a early showing of Momo, the Missouri Monster.
Yeah. And then his crew, the ones that did show up, they took off.
They abandoned him. They left him all by So anyway, we had a chance to go up and talk to him. We talked to him for actually off and on for a while, and then we came back the next day, day 2, and we talked to him again and kind of talked to the other fellas again. And then it was like, oh, crap, we should ask and see if we could get like a little sound bite or something like that for the podcast. So you went up to Seth and said, hey,
can we please do an interview?
And he was like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
And then basically we went to a room off the convention floor. Now, keep in mind, this is Cryptidcon, so it was pretty busy, pretty loud, lots of activity going on, and we found a sort of a quietish space where you asked him a series of questions.
Yeah.
Now, what those series of questions are, I'm not going to say because that would kind of give away the interview, but we didn't necessarily ask him
Things
monster questions
specific to Momo or this latest release.
Because what we like to do, what we have done in the past, and what we like to kind of continue doing is, I kind of like to talk to the researchers and stuff, as real people.
And see,
and you know, it's like with Dr. Jeff Meldrum, right?
Yeah.
He's been in this field for 1,000 years, the Bigfoot field, right? With the footprints and the castings, he's a big researcher. I mean,
Yeah.
he's almost the godfather of all this stuff now.
Yeah.
I was more interested to hear about him talking about his rescue dogs that his wife brings home, like all 8 or 9 of them or whatever, you know? Because everybody goes expecting to talk about Bigfoot and everything else, and it's kind of like, I don't know, it's just sort
But
of
for
a weird
me,
thing.
like for me, sometimes, and I know I can ask either sometimes some tough or some really inane interview questions, and I'm not just talking Seth. Apparently I've done that in the past before. I want to know the perspective.
Yeah, you kind of ask some, you know, people think you're just going to ask them little flowery, foo-foo questions, and you just slam them with
I
this
don't mean to.
You know, it's not like, hey, do you like making movies? You slam them with this question. It's like 2 minutes long. I'm like, what?
No,
I
so-
can't even remember what she's saying, let alone.
But and I do apologize for that because we weren't the only ones that slept. But
They
I
didn't
want to
slept.
know, I wanted to know more about the perspective and the approach towards making these movies, and small town monsters in general, because that's what interests me.
Well, yeah, because it's something that we're interested in doing and doing that sort of thing. I like their style.
Yeah,
I like the direction that they've taken. And plus, we've seen almost every single movie that they've put out.
yeah,
Small town monsters, and there's a lot of them. And the cool thing is that you can go to Amazon and use Amazon Prime Video, and you can find all of these movies, almost all of them.
yeah,
And you can watch them for free. And that was one of the things I thought was kind of funny, or not necessarily funny, but, you know, during the interview that we had, it's one of the things that he says. He's like, hey, you know,
yeah.
you can
Because I
find
brought,
he goes, you can pay for them and download them, or you can just find them for free on Amazon.
yeah.
Because he wants his stories to get out there. You know?
And I brought that up. It's like this new generation, I should say, of researchers. It's more about getting the project out there to the eyes of the audience, as opposed to the traditional method. And I asked him that during the interview, the old school way of doing things. So, and I appreciate that so much.
I mean, you can find these videos on Amazon. Some of them are on YouTube. There's a bunch. And
Yeah.
it is something that I thought was pretty interesting. Yeah, the On the Trail of Bigfoot series, Boggy Creek Monster, Beast of Whitehall, On the Trail of Bigfoot, Invasion of Chestnut Ridge.
Oh, yeah. That one.
Which I thought was really interesting. Terror in the Skies. Yeah, it's just a bunch of movies.
Yeah.
Mothman is
See,
pretty
I don't
heavily-
think I've seen the Mothman one.
No, but he talks
Yeah.
about Mothman, and
And
that's going to be
that's-
the type
yeah.
because the new movie he's going to put out in 2020 is Legacy, I believe, of Mothman.
Oh, he announced that at Cryptidcon, by the way.
Yes, well, yes, he did. The Minerva Monster,
Yeah.
Beast, Bray Road Beast. Excuse me. The Flatwoods Monster, which I really liked. I thought was pretty. You know, I like Minerva Monster. That's kind of one of my favorites. But anyway, well, he has the Mothman of Point Pleasant.
Yeah.
Is what you're thinking of, and what I was thinking of. Bunch of them, and they're all good. And see, that's the thing. These aren't like the documentaries you see where they're not good. I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, you like that? You're like, his documentaries are good. Other documentaries not good. It's not like that.
It's not something that you put on in the background on YouTube at like 330p resolution while you're vacuuming. It's
240p.
or 240p. Yeah.
You're like, oh, let me set this to potato so I don't ruin my bandwidth and blow through it all.
Yeah, while you do dishes. This is something you actually sit down and
Yeah,
watch.
this is not where people have, got together and filmed things with a calculator.
We talk really high and mighty.
No, we don't. Well, we're talking about his particular movies. We're not talking about ours. Ours are definitely filmed with a potato. It's just kind of one of those things. And that's something that, when looking at the style and how they do it and how they keep the story centralized or central to everything that's going on, they don't try to change the story. And I'm talking about Small Town Monsters, especially with Seth there. They sort of try to stay true to the story. The story is what it is. Right?
Yes, with the slight new directive that they're taking with Momo.
Well, that's just it.
Yeah.
They said they want to make it more, they want to tell a story, but they want to be more storyteller about the story.
Yeah, I think...
Because you can read it like you're reading the news and make a really sort of dry documentary. Or you can tell the story in a way that's interesting. And that's what I really like about the new movie, Momo.
Because the new movie, Momo, also, I really shouldn't give it away, but it kind of shows that evolution of the legend.
Yeah.
You know? And I was trying
it
to...
has a particular flavor to it that I like.
And but that's also part of it. It's like, you know, you see some of these documentaries and they're so after the fact and they're already relying on some of those embellishments or, you know, hearsay or not hearsay, I should say, like third party account type situations.
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
a lot of
where
them,
it's kind of grown.
Yeah, and a lot of them rehash the same information over and over again, and that's going to happen. It's going to happen when you have subjects that are researched, but there's the telling of the story, right? Mm-hmm. And the rehashing of the same information can be done in a more interesting way.
And I was trying to find what you just said in my brain while interviewing poor Seth, and spit that out, even though we were so tired, and I'm sure he was too.
Yeah.
So, and I couldn't, because like we were driving home, and all of a sudden I yelled sensationalism.
Yeah.
You know, and stuff like that, because I was like, that's what I do
responded
appreciate.
with chalupa.
I know.
And we went to Taco Bell, which I don't know why. But anyway, yeah. So we had the opportunity. We went and talked, and you interviewed Mr. Seth Breedlove, you know, for a while. We'd been chatting before. So what we actually have is about 18 minutes of Omi and Mr. Seth Breedlove having a little chat. Yeah. And you're going to hear some noise because it is at Kentucky Cryptidcon, where it was pretty loud. There's really no quiet place to be when you have that many people walking around. Where I must say, it was a fun time, but
yeah,
it was a good thing. It was a good talk, right? He talks about Momo a little bit. He talks about more kind of the behind the scenes and his idea of making these documentary movies, and the idea of having storytelling take a more sort of central role in, you know, these investigations and researchers who've already told the stories from before. And that's part of it. I kind of like the idea of being able to watch something and get more out of it and get more enjoyment out of it. And I like the style, the grindhouse drive-in movie style. And a lot of Blackburns in it too.
Yeah.
So I thought, actually, there's a lot of people in it.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty funny. It's like, you know. As a matter of fact, when we were looking at Momo and watching the movie, all the people that are in the credits, we've seen a lot of them at, you know, some of the conferences, right? Like,
yeah.
Oh, wow. So it was good. And I will say this, if you're going to have the opportunity to see it on Amazon Prime and other places, and we'll tell you about those when we come back, but give it a watch. And actually, all these movies are worth watching. So it's funny because you can binge all these movies and become a Fortean expert in a matter of no time, right? So a lot of good information in all of them. So yeah. Anyway, so here you go. We're going to go ahead and take a second. We're going to play this, and you can listen, and we'll be right back. You're listening to the CreepGeeks Podcast.
Totally casual interview.
Yep.
Some of these are going to get asked again, because I was like, oh, that dude at the end of the presentation actually asked my question. But I do want to say, what I noticed is you hinted that Momo is a response a little bit to paranormal community's reaction to current paranormal television. Mm-hmm. And you've hinted at your opinion on that, but what is one message you hope to convey to your audience?
That's a good question. Like a message regarding our content?
Yes,
or...
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just that
as it reflects the current media.
I'm bothered by the fact that that pop culture, or not pop culture, but the content geared around the paranormal. And when I say paranormal, that's a blanket statement for like ufology, Bigfoot, everything for me. Right, sure.
Yeah.
What bothers me about it is it is so geared around personalities and not the subject.
It seems to be like a formulaic method based on these reactive personalities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and my interest is in the subject.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to focus on, and that's what we like to focus on in the movies we make, rather than like turning ourselves into celebrities are like focusing on celebrities. Like we're interested in the subject.
It's the subject and the story.
Yeah, subject and the story. So the story is the most important thing to me in general, anyway. And I don't consider myself like I'm a storyteller first and foremost, and that's it. Like I don't know what else to say about it. I'm not a personality.
I'm not here for 4 names.
Right. Yeah. And I'm not. I don't consider myself a personality. I'm definitely not a celebrity. And frankly, I don't know what it is. This has been coming up a lot lately. It's like I don't know what it is about this particular field that really invites people to solely try to turn themselves into a celebrity. Like I don't know if there's just an ease in making a name for yourself in the paranormal world that people dive into it and they just like they can become somebody overnight. So basically all I'm saying is like STM is just it's about the subject, and like it's not about making the subject be us.
Yeah, it's the phenomenon, not
exactly
the personality.
Yeah, or the story. Yeah.
And then going with that, you spoke a bit earlier in your presentation you did here at Cryptidcon about the hindrance of gaining a regular TV show, like the traditional entertainment media.
Yeah.
Folks like yourself and Planet Weird, you're going that different path. You're changing the scene. So, what do you think is a key to growing your audience and growing your presence?
A key to growing your audience and growing your presence.
To aspiring podcasters like us.
Yeah, well, it's changed. Like we lucked out because I told someone today, like we exist and are able to exist today because when we first got into this, and this is going to sound real ridiculous, but like one of the key reasons is because the algorithm on Facebook was different. And for real, like it's that simple. Like we were able to grow our audience because we were able to reach them at that time, and things have changed overnight. So like, just put out a good product at this point. I don't know what to tell people anymore. Like if you're working on a podcast or a movie or whatever it is, like just make sure the quality is there to back it up. And I do think people will find that, especially in this field. And again, I'm not meaning to sound insulting, but there's so much garbage out there. And that if you put out anything that's like, that looks or sounds better, or at least sounds like you're trying, like I think people find it.
So if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Now, I do think you do need a presence, like you need social media and all that stuff, and engage with your audience and all that.
I've noticed for certain genres and communities, with the exception of like the paranormal, social media in general is so oversaturated. Whereas, like you just mentioned, the Facebook algorithm, the paranormal UFO community seems to be very strong on those main platforms like Reddit and Facebook. Yeah. So for us, we're sticking with those platforms just to grow our audience.
Yeah.
Maybe get lucky. Yeah. And then as far as like some monstery type questions, with Point Pleasant and Mothman, a book just came out, and I just listened to another podcast that spoke about the after effects, the before and after effects of like the John Keel-esque high strangeness. What were some weird things that you may have noticed when you were researching and making those films?
Yeah, so I have 2 stories. Yeah. And I'm not going to go into all the other additional stuff that went on during that talk. The 2 stories that I have is on the very first day of pre-pro, I was in Point Pleasant, and we were doing a scouting trip, and this sounds silly every time I say it because I'm a 37-year-old man. It's just a weird story. I was there with my mom and dad, and we were in one of the igloos, and we were just taking photos. And my mom was shooting video on her phone of me like walking around this igloo, and she said, all of a sudden she said, "What was that?" And I said, "What?" And she said, "There was something white just flew through here." And I thought, well, maybe like a bird's in here. I thought I would have heard it flap because those are not the igloos are pretty small. And so she's like we're looking all around for whatever she had seen. And finally she said, "You know what, I'm running video. We'll just watch it back and I'll show you." And because I was telling her there's nothing in here. She's like, "There was something in here. I just saw it fly through." So she went back to show me the video on her phone. And instead of a video, there was a single photo, still photo, and it was just a very bright white light. Like, that's all you could see. And it was a light, not... I'm pretty sure it was a light, not like her thumb over the sensor or something like that. And at the bottom there was like a little black thumbnail. That's why I could kind of tell it was like there was something that, you know, like it wasn't. I think it was light, not something blocking the camera. Yeah, and she was convinced she had been taking a video as well. So that was kind of weird. I mean, it wasn't. It could have been anything. And then the other thing that happened is, like, last year when we were filming Terror in the Skies, the first 2 interviews we shot for Terror in the Skies, we did because we're an indie film company and we wanted Alison Jornlin and Ken Gerhard in Terror in the Skies, and I knew there was no chance I was going to be able to fly to Texas to interview Ken because we don't have the money for that. And he was going to be at the Mothman Festival when I was, so like we convinced him to come down on Saturday morning and do an interview at the State Theater, and Allison as well. And during his interview, we got like besieged by flies, to the point where like they were flying. I didn't really even mention this, but like they were flying, like swarming us. They were swarming Ken, and they were swarming Zach, who was manning the camera. I didn't really have to deal with them. Yeah. They weren't really landing on me or anything. I was just sitting there asking questions. But Ken, they were landing on him. I mean, like his hat. If you watch the footage, it's crazy, because like one other thing I didn't mention is we always use focus peaking when we're shooting. His focus peaking was nailed. Like his focus was nailed. It was a good shot. When I got it is so out of focus on the A camera, it's insane. But he was covered. Yeah, he was covered in these flies the entire time we were shooting. And then when Allison got there, we ran into this problem where the batteries kept draining on the lights.
So the tech phenomenon
that
some people experience.
Yeah, kind of. But what's weird is like we didn't deal with any of that during the Mothman at Point Pleasant when we were making that.
So it's
it was
like
just like
consequence, which I think Keel talks about as well. The consequence of going down the rabbit hole.
Sure, maybe. Yeah.
Okay, and that kind of just brought a question up just out of my brain with the flies and the tech problems. Are you a superstitious person?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you just keep rolling.
And I'm pretty skeptical too. Yeah. Like I'm highly skeptical actually. So yeah, I keep rolling.
Okay.
Which is also
I am superstitious. So sometimes when things go wrong, I'm like, oh, should I film today?
Yeah. I'm always like, it's funny because I was talking to Jeff Belanger a couple of weeks ago, and it was about something completely unrelated, but he said something that stuck with me that was hilarious, where he said, I have this very artistic, creative gift where some days I wake up and I have a hard time doing my job, but then I look in the mail and I see a bill and I realize, oh, I have to pay my bills. It's like that with me. I'm even if I do get spooked out or concerned, if I have a camera in my hand and I know what my job is that day, that is going to get done no matter what.
Good mindset.
Yeah.
Thank you. But with having the camera in your hand and creating these regional series, you start to notice some overlap and some similarity.
Oh yeah.
Do you edit that out to avoid seeming monotonous, or do you keep it in so that your audience starts to notice a theme?
I mean, I think if you're spending any time looking into this, you're going to notice the themes, like the dead dogs in Bigfoot's cases and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't think I try to edit because it's part of the case, and we're kind of just telling those stories. And also, like, we've been playing around with storytelling as a central theme going back to Boggy Creek Monster, which was our third film. And it has been sort of the overriding theme of every movie we've made since then. And if you watch it, it's interesting because, like, I don't know if anyone's picking up on it or not, but that has been the theme of all these movies, and Momo especially. Like, it is about storytelling and how film and pop culture can change a real event into something else entirely.
So the trauma versus the mythology, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, to an extent, but just like storytelling is always. I'm kind of obsessed with storytelling, just because like I was a writer before I did filmmaking, and now I'm a filmmaker, which still it's a storyteller, just different type of story, it's a visual story. But yeah, that's the theme right now. I can't remember what got me rambling about this though. Okay. What were we talking about when I started talking about story? This is what happens when you barely slept.
Yes, convention life's hard.
Yeah.
But it was more along the when you explore a phenomenon and
the similarities and yeah. And I mean, like, the Mothman legacy is all about that. It's all about the similarities in stories, and how like that Mothman story to me really reads like some of the Appalachian lore that's existed for centuries prior to that case.
And I guess
it's almost like a repackaging of it.
I would want to see that from you, because from me I took it more a little too clinical. I looked at the facts and then built my mental story around it. So I definitely want to see your take on that, because
I mean like we're gonna interview, like for that one we're interviewing like Native American elders from the area. We're interviewing folklorists from the area, and then we have some other, like obviously Jeff Walmsley and Ashley. I mean, it's gonna be about the word legacy in the title is kind of key, because it's about the way stories are passed from generation to generation, as much as it is about a spooky paranormal event.
Because I was just thinking, as far as like the legacy of way things, I have things in my family that have been told a certain way, and then if I'm dating myself, go back to the public library microfiche, you find the story was totally different.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and that's
yeah.
Flatwoods dealt with that too.
Yeah,
like Flatwoods opens up with this like ridiculous story about like a monster on the woods that'll kill kids, and that is a story the kids tell each other in Flatwoods today, which is not at all what the Flatwoods monster event was. But that is a story that they.
The biggest thing I picked up from yours was the whole, it couldn't get the concept of the fence, and that was just but, and then as far as like, okay, we've talked some really big monsters, but if bucket list or something like that, what would be a bucket list monster that's not commonly known for you?
Yeah, I mean that's what's hard, is like we kind of done. Flatwoods was one, because like I kept saying we'd never be able to do it because there were no witnesses willing to talk about it. We lucked out. Like I literally happened to be in Flatwoods on the day when Fred was actually in town. He's never there. He owns a house in Sutton, but not Sutton. He owns a house next door to the Sutton director of tourism next door to him. And I happened to be in town hanging out with the director of tourism on a day where Fred happened to be in town. So we got hooked up. We met, and we sat on Fred's porch for 2.5 hours while the camera crew sat in my car baking to death because it was like July. And we never talked about the Flatwoods monster. We didn't talk at all about that story. And because of the fact that I didn't sit there and try to, convince him to do a movie, he was willing to talk to me. And then when we set up the interview, he wanted to hold it at his brother Ed's house. Ed was one of the kids that was there that night. Ed was interested in not meeting me, but meeting my dad, because he had found out my dad during this whole 2.5 hour conversation I had with Fred. One of the rabbit trails we got off on was the fact that my parents owned a bookstore when I was growing up. My dad was like a Civil War buff, and Ed is a Civil War buff, and owns a Civil War house. So Ed wanted us to come out to their house so he could meet my dad. He wanted me to bring my dad, so I brought my dad. And then my dad convinced Ed to do the interview. So we interviewed Ed and Fred. You'd never be able to do that.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. It doesn't happen that way.
It just doesn't fall in place like that. That's amazing. And then we do want to thank you for meeting us at Cryptidcon.
Yeah.
Seth from Small Town Monsters. One last thing, is there anything you'd like to promote or tell our audience to check out?
Watch our movies.
Yes.
Yeah, they're all. I mean, if you don't want to spend money, you don't have to, because they're all free on like Amazon Prime or On the Trail of the On the Trail of miniseries, or on YouTube. So On the Trail of Champ and On the Trail of Bigfoot are both
and
on.
then Momo.
And Momo comes out September 20th.
Yeah.
And you can watch it on Vimeo On Demand, Amazon, and VidiSpace.
definitely going to
DVD.
get a link to your Kickstarter and our show notes for a podcast.
Cool. Yeah, that goes live in February. For some reason, we start promoting way out in advance. So
Really?
February, yeah, we'll be running the Kickstarter.
Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much for talking to us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
A podcast about curses, hexes, and maledictions. Cursed examines some of the most bizarre and mysterious events that have been documented throughout history. Whether it's regarding tales of voodoo, black magic, or simply a series of unfortunate events, I'll be telling you all kinds of strange tales. 3 episodes are readily available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and other popular apps. These episodes cover tales and stories from Manchac Swamp, the alleged curse of Ötzi the Iceman, and a story involving the Australian international soccer team and a scorned witch doctor. You can find out more about the show by visiting curse.com. That's CV like voodoo, RSED.com. You can also follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Cursed Podcast. Again, that's CV like voodoo, RSED Podcast. Hope to see you around. Thanks for listening.
Hey CreepGeeks fans, this is Toby Harford of Afterlife Paranormal. Join us October 5th for Carolina Paracon at the beautiful Saluda Shoals Park in Columbia, South Carolina. We have ghost hunting teams, cryptozoologists, and alien contactees, including Katie Stafford from Travel Channel's Ghosts of Morgan City, Psychic Lucky Belcamino, the Bigfoot Guys, alien contactee Eric Mitchell, demonologist James Anito, the CreepGeeks Podcast, and many more. We'll have 25 plus vendors, lectures on all paranormal topics, a psychic gallery reading, and a paranormal panel. Tickets are on sale now, and if you purchase before September 1st, you will be entered to win a ghost hunting kit and Carolina Paracon t-shirt. Find us on Facebook at Carolina Paracon. We hope to see you there.
All right, so we enjoyed having a little interview time with Mr. Seth Breedlove, Small Town Monsters, and like some of the things he had to say. Actually, I didn't really have a problem with anything he said, really. So you never know, I guess. That sounds kind of a weird thing to say. But the reason why I'm saying that is you never know what people are going to say, right? Yeah. We had a chance to talk to him for a while before the interview. And when the interview started, he was the same guy.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I like that, and because one of the things that he mentioned in the podcast is how it seems like in this field, people are really trying to like get famous,
Doing it for the star power.
Yeah. And it's like, at the end of the day, what are you presenting to people to earn that fame versus is it easier in the field for that just a sort of thing to happen? And we've heard that before. We've talked to other people before, and we won't say who they are, because it was a conversation that was just our conversation, not a conversation for public dissemination, if you will, where people have said the same thing. They're like, hey, man, what are you trying to do? You're not going to get famous here trying to do this stuff. That kind of thing. It seems to be, for some, the motive, and we've seen that with other sort of documentary type things where it seems like instead of the story being the focal point and the reason why you're watching, it seems like they wanted to slip in, a bunch about themselves. And it's like, why should I care about, I'm there for the story. I'm not there for you. It's kind of like how I'm looking at it.
You're there for the research, the story, the event, the phenomenon, not the person.
Yeah. It just, so it's just something that it sort of struck on a chord with me. And I thought, okay, this kind of is what it is. And that's part of the reason why I like the movies that they're doing. They're trying and they're doing a good job, and they don't seem to be making it anything other than it is, which is it's entertaining. The story is still rooted around the evidence and interviews and information they've collected, and less sensationalized than we've seen from other things.
But I thought about that approach too, that where it's the story of me and the phenomenon type thing.
Yeah.
You know where else you see that in?
Where?
The craft or maker community, where it's not about the craft beer, it's about the people behind it.
but that's not necessarily the same thing, because this is about, the person puts themselves in that particular movie, like how it affects. It's weird. It's like, oh, let me try to slip myself in here so I can. I don't. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
This is not the movie and the people behind the movie, right? This is not the craft beer and the people behind the beer making the beer great so that you can enjoy it. This is more like, hey, look what I'm doing. Look at me.
Yeah. Because
and see me while I tell this story, which really is way more.
There's
awesome
the understanding
the
there that the person watching there's an understanding there that I guess a lot of people aren't realizing. These people are watching these movies because they want to know about the phenomenon. You don't have to build an additional narrative there. The people who you're marketing to already want this information. There is no need to embellish it with your personal stuff.
But see, that's just it, though.
Yeah.
Because then these people that don't really know any better, I guess, we're going to call them the great unwashed.
Yeah.
Then they're like, oh my gosh, let me go see that person. And it's like, okay, that person may not necessarily be worthy of your... I'm trying real hard. We need a show where I can say exactly what I want.
We should do that eventually.
Without actually worrying about stuff. And by stuff, I mean like demonetization, deplatforming, all that sort of thing. It's a real concern.
Or the Twitterverse catching on fire.
Yeah, because, you really kind of got to watch what you say. And one day, we're going to have a show where it's going to be a little bit different, where we'll just say whatever the hell we want to say. I don't necessarily want to call people out, because I always like to try to give people the benefit of the doubt. And I haven't met 2 of the 3 people I'm actually talking about right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about Seth. Mr. Seth Breedlove from Small Town Monsters. I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about these other individuals where I should probably give them the benefit of the doubt by physically talking to them before I go with what my gut says to be true.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the other side of that, I'm a firm believer in believing your gut. Right?
Yeah.
But I would still like to make a face-to-face sort of confirmation like, wow, yeah, you really are a douchebag. You know what I'm saying? Before I just label someone as a D-bag, I would like to say, yes, I have met them. I have full confirmation that this person is a douchebag.
Getting back to Momo, the Missouri Monster, that is one thing I liked about the film, is the fact that it did focus on the initial gut reactions to the whole experience.
Yeah.
And you could see the genuine behavior and attitudes and how the whole phenomenon grew, the whole, what happened that whole year pretty much.
Yeah.
So that's something I really liked in that, as well as some of the more surprising things that I didn't know happened. So, but that gut reaction and going with your gut, I wish more of these documentaries did that, where you spoke to the people who had that gut reaction that something is amiss. This is a phenomenon. This is paranormal or whatever, and then going and talking to them more and asking those important questions instead of the second or third accounts that may be embellished.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is what I like about these movies that these cats are making. People... It seems like, okay, here's what I've noticed in a lot of these sort of documentaries and shows that you see. The people that get interviewed for information turn into like little sound bites.
Yeah.
Where they grab like a little part of what they're saying and make it fit the narrative of whoever's making the movie.
Yeah.
It seems like so far with what we've been seeing with Small Town Monsters is that the narrative is built around what everyone's speaking to and about to tell the story. Which is what I like. It shouldn't be sort of over-sensationalized, over-dramatized sort of thing where somebody says, and then I seen it. And then, it seems like what they say, what the interviewers say, the interviewees say, and the retelling of their story is what's there to build the backbone of the story. And they use that method when they're especially trying to do the storytelling aspect of it.
Yeah.
They keep that in there in a way that's it's not... I guess what I'm saying is, by keeping it like that, and where you're actually using real information from real people, regardless of whether it's real or not, or whether they believe it's real or not, adds to the credibility of the telling of the story. And then adding different sort of entertainment aspects to it, maybe giving it a different style, like Grindhouse, that sort of thing, doesn't take away from the credibility of the story, because the story is still being portrayed as accurately as can be portrayed in today. I mean, because, Momo was in the 70s, man. So we're looking at, 40 years later almost?
Yeah.
So, and it just seems like some movies we've seen where it's like, since a lot of these stories are told by different people, it's the same story. You watch one documentary, it's super dry, kind of boring, all factual, and you're supposed to sit there and go, let me push my nerd glasses up and take notes. Then you have other documentaries. You have other documentaries, right, where the story is told and there's some slight embellishment to it. And you're like, okay, let me kind of take this with a grain of salt. Then you have other stories that are basically told with the same information, right? Mm-hmm. But it's just more interesting to watch. Or it's applying a different tool to the storytelling method, or different something.
And then there's some where you got to put your wading boots on.
Yeah, and then there's some where it's like, is the story about the story, or is it about the guy who made the story who's telling you about the story? Because I don't care. I don't want to know about the guy who made the story, right?
Or is it about?
I want to know about the people in the story that actually are the story.
Or is it about the attention of the story or phenomenon?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and see, we're not experts at this. I'm not Gene Siskel Ebert guy by any means. But I like the way the story was told. I do like the more entertaining aspects to tell a better story. I think using storytelling, sort of to tie things in, but making it interesting and entertaining, but not taking away the credibility of the story, I think is really good. And I appreciated that. I appreciated that with Momo, and I've seen that sort of progression happen in his movies, or in their movies. I just think they're worth watching. And we've also seen that in another group who are making a film as well, where they're trying to be credible and put the information out there and tell a nicely crafted story without going too crazy into special effects and everything else, and also not concentrating solely on them. It's like they're putting themselves in the story as characters. They're telling it to you third party, so you can decide whatever you want, and they're letting it stand on its own instead of, like, here's what happened to me when I talk about this, which is a way better story, but here's how I feel. It's like, I don't care.
Or a producer in the background saying, and then the monster jumps out, so, yeah. But along with Momo, there's some other things that are upcoming from Small Town Monsters that we're looking forward to.
Yeah, super excited for a couple different things.
And I think it may have been mentioned in the interview.
In the year 2020.
The one that I'm super excited about, The Mothman Legacy 2020.
Yeah.
It's a follow-up to The Terror in the Skies and a direct sequel to The Mothman of Point Pleasant.
Which he actually talks about.
Yeah.
In the interview.
But this legacy continues the story of the infamous wave of sightings of a bizarre winged creature which began in the 1960s. So,
yes.
Because I'm so interested in that, because
is he a robot? Is he a man in a flying suit? I don't know.
But it's also going to be about the whole high strangeness of scenario.
Yeah.
Because that is such a rabbit hole right there, and I love that one. So, and then
especially when you get John Keel involved.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just it just goes on, and evidently there was like tons and tons and tons of information that John Keel didn't include in books.
Yeah. And
didn't talk about in his Mothman book. That sort of ties in later on. It's kind of like, what? And there were some details that I think are more prevalent now.
Yeah.
Or at least they are to us versus what you've previously seen and heard.
And that's
like the wings, for example. Like the wings go back a little bit on Mothman, but they don't flap, and he just takes off, and he makes noise when he flies, all sorts of crazy stuff where it's like, what?
But that's going to be that's that new book that just came out, John A. Keel, The Man, the Myths, and the Ongoing Mysteries.
Yeah.
That's also available on Amazon. I might be checking that out.
We have Audible, so you can check that out for free.
Not sure if it's on Audible
yet. Yes, it is.
It's on paperback, though. So
it's not on. I thought it was on Audible.
Nope, not this one.
We also have Kindle, and I know it's available on Kindle.
Because this one, this is so new. July 14th, 2019. The foreword was actually written by Rosemary Ellen Guiley, rest in peace. Yeah.
I think I do. Actually, I think I actually have that one.
And it was mentioned by another big podcast that we listened to. They talked about this one for a while. Mysterious Universe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I might just put a link in this because, again, the Mothman phenomenon, which is upcoming, and the Mothman Festival happening. So,
yes.
Yeah, I'm so bummed.
Well,
but we've got other big things that we're doing.
We agreed to do a conference, and we agreed to it, and we're going to do it.
Yep.
Next year, we'll probably be there at the Mothman Festival.
True.
2020.
But, let's see. I'm grabbing a link for you guys while trying to podcast.
Yeah.
In addition to the Mothman Legacy, Small Town Monsters also has On the Trail of UFO'S.
Yeah, I'm excited about that one too.
Yeah. On the Trail of UFO'S takes the Small Town Monsters crew on a cross-country adventure that leads from the gates of Area 51 to the streets of Manhattan. So join host Shannon Legro as she travels across the United States, tracking the ins and outs of ufology while seeking her own personal encounter with unknown aerial phenomenon.
And see, what's cool about that, a little side note, and that was some of the things that we actually talked about that we didn't talk about during the interview that we've actually been talking about the day before, or about the Southwest and things like that. When we said, hey, we just recently kind of, this year came in from New Mexico. And he's like, oh, I was out there. And we talked about that in great and agonizing detail for a while, too.
Yeah.
So
I wish we had got that little snippet that he was talking about, how as soon as the storm Area 51 broke, where they were.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we're putting links in the show notes to everything we're talking about, including these upcoming projects from Small Town Monsters.
Yeah, which is Mothman Legacy 2020.
Yeah.
And then On the Trail of UFO'S 2020.
Yeah. And I do encourage you guys, once you go to the link, click on members and also click on productions. Productions lets you know the upcoming stuff. But members, that's where they're going to be launching a way to support the overall project that is Small Town Monsters.
Yeah, it's not there yet. But
yeah, it's coming soon.
So.
And that's
the cool thing is, though, is they do a Kickstarter usually in February-ish. And they have some pretty cool, like, tiers and stuff like that where you can, be in the credits of the movie and that sort of thing. So it's something that we might do.
Yeah.
But, you should watch Flatwoods Monster. I like that one.
Yes.
And, anyway, there's a bunch of them. And plus, on that same page that you were just talking about, there's all the movies that you'd want to see right there.
Yes, as well as all the streaming platforms.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can see it on Amazon. Okay, so here's some of the streaming platforms if you want to catch some of these productions, and I would recommend to do so. Amazon, Prime Video, right? Mm-hmm. Vimeo, Google Play, iTunes, Xbox, and YouTube.
Yes.
And more.
Or if you have a DVD player, unlike us, you can
actually buy one. You can
shop and buy the DVDs as well.
The DVDs.
Yes. So, and then they have a YouTube channel. You wanted to talk about that real quick. How it's got their...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of good stuff on YouTube, but they have little short clips of material that maybe they didn't necessarily use in one of the movies.
And On the Trail of Bigfoot's all on there.
Yeah, and we watched
most
7 hours of that. I think it was all the episodes. I think it's about 7 hours, just kind of binging during a day. Yeah. So there's a lot of good stuff on the YouTube channels as well. Yeah, and I believe there's also a podcast that Seth does.
Yeah, what is that? Oh,
Monsteropolis.
Or Monsteropolis. I cannot pronounce anything.
Him and I think it's...
That's another thing. I kept saying certain things wrong all during Cryptidcon, so I apologize for that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Monsteropolis, I'm pretty sure it's Monsteropolis podcast. There's a link to it that we put in the show notes, take you to it on Facebook. It's also available on iTunes and everywhere else. I believe that's the podcast that Seth Breedlove does with his buddy Mark Matsky.
Yeah.
I think. So, yeah, worth listening to, worth watching. All these movies are good, so if you want to watch them, check them out. They're not the typical cheese ball documentaries you see, and they're not over sensationalized or over dramatized. Here's what I like about them. They're good enough to watch and get information from, and you could actually recommend them to somebody. You should check it out. There's a lot of good information about that, where it's not so cheeseball that your friends are like, you really believe in this stuff?
And
or they look at you like you're a weirdo because you believe in, you know what I mean?
For me, they are a good jumping point towards forming your own opinion about something.
Absolutely. So
there's enough facts in there for you to start forming an opinion or position or whatever, a belief, have you, and then continue to do your own research.
Or an interest.
Yeah.
In the, whatever particular subject you're looking at, whichever particular monster or cryptid you're looking at.
Because, I'm old, so my first introductions to Mothman, the limited information I got and the opinions I formed at the time, because, again, older, were not the same as when I watched, other stuff and other documentaries. This one, Small Town Monsters, empowers you to have some of that more factual, chronological facts and stuff like that. Yeah. So, yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I was just thinking back to when I was younger and used to watch In Search Of. It was narrated by, Leonard Nimoy. I mean, it was kind of cheesy, but it was also sort of serious because it was freaking Leonard Nimoy.
You had Leonard Nimoy. Who did I have when I was like in late teens, early 20s? I had Riker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I think In Search Of is back, and it's got Zachary Quinto. He played Spock in the Star Trek movies. Not the Kelvin timeline. I want to make sure that everybody knows that.
Nobody throw a fit.
Yeah. So, you know what happens when you incite
nerd
rage,
right? Oh, it
right?
does. Yeah, and that started last year.
Yeah, you know what happens when you incite nerd rage, right?
Yeah.
Nothing. But yeah. But yeah, so anyway, I thought that was pretty cool. So, okay, so enough of the Small Town Monsters. Even though I do like the job that they're doing, I like the movies that they're making. I like the new sort of, hey, let's tell the story, but add, another style of storytelling to it and add some excitement. I like the style that they did for this particular one, so I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't over. It was done in a way that was sort of tongue-in-cheek, but not so out there that they were making fun of it, because I grew up going to drive-ins until I was like 9 or something like that. They were a thing.
Yeah.
Drive-in movies were a thing. You didn't really necessarily go into the movie theater, all the time. You could. The drive-in was a great experience growing up, where it was like for real. You went and you paid your money. And it's like 5 or 6 people all stuffed in a car. Right, and you got to go play on the swing sets and run around and do all that crazy stuff where this, movie is playing, where people would watch them. It was good. It was a really good experience in the 70s for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's one of the things that, in this Momo movie that I thought was pretty funny was the, go get a hot dog music. Little hot dog. I was like, I remember that. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, and if you are waiting for your Momo Missouri Monster DVD. In the meantime, you can get on Kindle or paperback right now Lyle Blackburn's Momo, The Strange Case of the Missouri Monster. And I'll put a link to that in the show notes. Lyle Blackburn actually hosts Momo. So
he's in a couple other
movies. He is.
Yeah.
So
see, and I have a theory too. It's something I was coming across the other day.
Yeah.
I'm going to do some research and find out who all the black hat guys are in this whole like paranormal thing. Like, he's got the cool black hat.
Yeah.
Where it's all tucked in and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Got like, it's not necessarily a skull, but it's, got the, the cool, I don't know how to describe it. But I can only describe it as this. It's got the whole Billy the Exterminator look going on.
Shh, don't say it.
I mean, not just for him. There's like 3 other dudes.
Yeah. I was trying to think.
Out of those 3 that I'm talking about, Lyle is definitely more credible, I think, in what he does. He pulls it off. The other guys, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying
I believe it with Lyle Blackburn. Billy the Exterminator, I didn't necessarily believe that was his look.
No.
But yeah, it's a thing. So I'm gonna put together. Yeah, so we're gonna put together our own documentary called The Black Hat Guys. And we're gonna go interview those dudes and talk to them and ask them questions like, "So, how did you do that with your hat?" But no, just kind of poking around. But no, it's good. You should go see Momo. Yeah. If you can't go see it, then do it the easy way. You should download it. If you can't download it, watch it on Amazon Prime or Vimeo. Or when it pops up on YouTube, you can see it there. There's all sorts of places you can see it. It's worth watching for sure. So, Yeah. Think about it. We actually bought the DVD. We don't even have a DVD player.
Oh, gosh.
Which actually makes us kind of lame, I think.
Yeah, and old and, like, road lagged.
It's not old. Think about it. I mean, why would you need, I don't know. Why do you need it? You can stream everything.
I'm busy looking up everybody else who has a black hat right now.
That's for later. So, I don't know. All right. So anyway, I think we're about at the part of the podcast where we're done.
Yes. The only thing I can add to everything we've talked about so far is we are already excited to go to the next Cryptidcon in 2020. Outer Realm is this weekend. Stop by, say hi. If you can't make it to Outer Realm, again, we have Carolina Paracon coming October 2nd-ish. Yep. And check our show notes for that, as well as tickets. If you want to reach out to the show, that's contact@creepgeeks.com. Alternately, like our Facebook page, join our Facebook group. That's where a lot of our conversations and ideas for the show come from. If you want to check out everything about us, go to creepgeeks.com. We also have a contact us and a new shop link on there.
Yes.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So, hey, be sure to tune into our next podcast where we talk about what happened at Outer Realm Festival and other randomly associated or sorted things relating to the stuff that we talk about.
Yeah. All right.
I'm running out of steam, man. I don't know what to do. Here's the thing. We have a ton of stuff to do and a short time to do it before the next festival.
And, I should mention, go to our Facebook page, click on the CreepGeeks Facebook page, and click on events. We're doing events every single weekend for the next 2 months, with the exception of one. So, we're kind of tired already.
And we're old.
Yes.
No. Anyway. All right. So, hey, appreciate you taking the time to listen to the CreepGeeks podcast. You should tune in next week. We do content every week. We do appreciate it. You can find us everywhere. iTunes, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Pandora. So, anyway, very much appreciated for you guys taking the time. So,
if you like listening to our podcast, be sure to subscribe, hit like, and leave us a review.
Yeah. So anyway, until next time, see you later. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I would sell everything I own. I'd swim the ocean, dance with the devil. I'd sell my soul to take you home. Yeah.